The pandemic was an absolute gift to the Brexiteers. Why? Well, any problems, any problems caused by Brexit, whether it be in the economy, trade, you name it, could just be put down to that's not a Brexit problem, that's a pandemic problem. And that has been their line for the past 2 years. That's not Brexit, that's the pandemic. But the further we go on from from the pandemic, the thinner and thinner that excuse becomes. Because we're already seeing it now in the trade numbers we've had very recently. There has been a massive uptick in world trade, which Britain has missed out on. During the pandemic, our economy was hit far, far harder than any other economy. You know, we suffered, I think it was like minus 21%. The next closest economy, I think, was Spain at minus 12. So there is a big difference, a big, big, big difference between what you're seeing in the numbers. But of course, that's not a Brexit problem. That's a pandemic problem. And the more time passes and passes on, that excuse just gets thinner and thinner and thinner to where it just won't wash anymore. And it will just be, this is a Brexit problem. And as we've been seeing, I think since this week, Monday evening, I think this problem started, we've been seeing massive queues down at Dover. Because not only, again, problems caused by the pandemic of staff shortages, the P&O crisis at the moment, but also because of Brexit is compounding this problem even more, to the point where we have had an IT systems meltdown. And if you've been following, of course, the Brexit news, we've talked just about how bad the IT systems that we have to deal with this really, really are. Remember, if you are trying to get help on this IT system, there is no helpline. You have to send an email, and then you have to hope that if you're trying to desperately get a response, that at least you're waiting 7 days for a response. So hopefully you don't need that quicker response. But as we've said before, this just isn't going to cut it. This is going to cause huge economic knock-on effects. So, of course, before we do get into the article, please do remember to hit that like, share, and of course, subscribe button. And of course, down below, there are links to my Patreon page and a one-off donation link called Buy Me Coffee, where you can, well, buy me coffee. And as always, thank you very much to all those people who do support the channel that way. So let's go diving into this. This comes from The Guardian with the title of Customs IT Meltdown Adds to the Long Delays at the Channel Crossings. UK customs officials are battling to resolve an outage in key post-Brexit IT systems, with drivers complaining that the malfunction is adding to the long delays of freight traffic caused by the crossings in the Channel. And we've discussed this before. The chief system, I believe, from what I remember it's called, is so archaic that it literally cannot talk to the EU systems, because it was built in a time where this idea of cross systems talking to each other was just not a thing. And it can't even be reassembled or put on in like some Frankenstein fashion to try and talk to the European system. It's that bad and archaic. And the government would have to spend billions of pounds to try and update it. They just haven't, because as we've said before, this needed huge numbers of investment, and they just haven't put the investment in to be able to handle the new capacity that they've got to deal with. So anyway, we'll continue. The surge of course, in Easter tourist traffic and, of course, reduced sailings from Dover, where several P&O ferries are still out of commission after mass sackings of crew members, combined with the delays to create customs havoc on the roads into the port, with parts of the coastbound M20 motorway in Kent turned into a temporary lorry park as HGVs wait to reach France. The haulage industry insiders have put the blame for the gridlock on the week-long outage of one of the government's new trade portals and the Goods Vehicles Movement Service, or the GVMS, and the first experienced problems back on the 30th of March that has not been able to be used by traders and hauliers since the following day. So, whoops. Again, to quote Michael Gove, we're prepared for Brexit. We're prepared for these problems. Clearly, we're not. Clearly, we're not. Drivers are now being warned that it may not be up and running until Monday. The GVMS, which is, of course, developed by and is the responsibility for the HMR Revenue and Customs Service, or HMRC, has been suffering a serious system outage since it was temporarily taken offline during an update to another government customs system, handling the import and export freight known as Chief. Clarion Donovan, a driver based in the UK who regularly moves goods back and forth between Britain and the continent, said that he was unable to use the GMS portal to get the goods movement reference, or the GMR number, and the barcode required to actually leave the UK last Wednesday. I had to cancel a job out to Paris on Thursday, which was annoying, he said. And how much money has he lost not being able to do that job due to cancelling it, as we said before? If you've got a lorry or you're stuck in there and your customers in the EU, you're potentially causing that customer in the EU to lose money. So next time, are they going to order that parts or that stuff from you? No, they're going to look for alternatives, probably not based in the UK, which means you will lose out on income. And as we've said before, we've been reporting on businesses that have lost 30 to 40% of their income. So GVMS users said trying to access the system and service have been notified at least 2 occasions over the past week that the system would be soon operational again. However, those dates have come and gone, and the government has said the GVMS will not be up and running again until midday on Monday. Traders trying to access the GMFS notified that HMRC is still investigating the ongoing issues with the service. What are the odds that this still isn't up and ready by midday on Monday? Of course, in the meantime, HMRC has implemented contingency measures, allowing hauliers to show other evidence that customs declarations has been made to take goods out and bring them back into the UK, including a transit accompanying document or moving reference number. Despite these, again, more documentation, just look how much red tape there is now trying to cross the border. And yet the government said that Brexit was all about getting rid of red tape. Of course, despite these interim measures, truckers say that they are still required to provide different customs information that is likely to add processing time to the border. The GMI barcode is scannable and thought, of course, to save time. A HMRC spokesperson said, "Our IT systems are stable. We have put up in place contingency pressures to ensure that businesses can keep goods and freight moving while we return services to full service." Could you imagine if Russia were to have a cyber attack on this service and seriously try to take down this service? This could cause untold chaos if they tried to do that. In fact, it wouldn't surprise me if this turns out to be the case. It wouldn't surprise me. Of course, they apologized for any inconvenience and said that they would work closely with customs to try and avoid disruption, adding that HMRC took the system's reliance very seriously. Donovan said that the current disruption meant that he was working out whether to accept even future courier jobs. I would rather not work than sit there for 20 hours trying to leave the country, he said. Duncan Buchan, the policy director for the Road Haulage Association, described the week-long outage to GCMS as really unhelpful at a time of accumulation of other problems. The vessels usually operated by P&O Ferries are still out of action, of course, after the company's mass sacking of over 800 workers last month. representing over a third of Dover's usual ferry capacity, and bad weather has also delayed some of the sailings in recent days, just as tourist traffic booms before the Easter holidays. So, as we've said before, sometimes you've got to take bad weather into delays, and you can't control that. That is something that is completely out of control. If bad weather delays some sailings, you can't control that. So there is always going to be that. It doesn't matter if they at least try to get this Frankenstein-like system working. The government cannot control the weather. So, and of course, in recent days, as tourist traffic booms before the Easter holidays, and of course, the traffic backlog was further increased, of course, by a breakdown in the Eurotunnel traffic on Monday. So it's still not, you can see just the amount of problems that the government has no control over them, that are just still problems that they have no control over, which will cause delays and will happen. And you've just seen the traffic and of course all of the work, and this is again compounded by Brexit. And of course, drivers faced further delay of traffic chaos on Thursday as lorries queued for hours to reach the Dover port and even the Eurotunnel terminal. And Kent residents faced disruptions and even diversions. A 23-mile stretch from the M20 junction near Junction 8 near Maidstone to Junction 11 on West Hanger was closed on Thursday to all non-freight traffic as part of Operation Brock, which we've talked about many times, the traffic management system. And it was estimated that more than over 2,000 lorries were stuck in that queue. One member reported that they joined the queue at 8 a.m. last night, and this morning, just before 9 a.m., they were still only 30 miles from Dover. As Bertram said, that adding lorries and drivers were being forced to wait in their cabs without access to toilet or in places to buy food and drink. We're looking at getting lots of feedback from drivers who are complaining about the absence of facilities. They are basically being advised to take their statutory rest before going to Kent, he said. Days of traffic chaos have also affected the Kent's residents and businesses, and Toby Ho, the tactical lead at the Kent Reliance Forum, a partnership of agencies and organizations, said, "We have basically have more lorries coming into the country than can go out the other send," Ho said. "This issue isn't going to go away. This is always Kent and its residents who have to pay the price if there are any problems on the channel crossings." Well, congratulations, guys. We warned you, but Kent overwhelmingly, from what I remember, voted for Brexit. We warned against this. Hate to say we told you so, but we told you so. Trevor Barnett, the leader of the Dover District Council, said in an open letter that the port would remain under severe pressure up until Easter and would not hesitate to declare a major incident if Dover was again snarled up by the port traffic because of local fears that this could hamper the emergency services. Welcome to the new normal. This is the new normal for Kent residents, by the way. This isn't going away. This is now a permanent fixture of your lives. And I'm sorry, but we warned you about this. And of course, there are Kent residents who, again, voted to remain and were very well aware of this, that this was always going to be a problem. We warned you about this. We warned you the potential disruptions this would cause. This is now a permanent fixture. And this is only going on at Dover. What about other ports around the country? Like, if you're in Yorkshire and you want to send your goods to Europe, your closest port is Hull to Zagreb, I think it is, in the Netherlands or Germany, where they have those ferries on. And I've talked multiple times, if you have a holdup in the Hull ferry port, to get to it, you've got to go through Hull city centre. Could you imagine the type of chaos that could get created and the economic disruption that could happen if Hull port were to get fouled up in a very similar way? In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if we're seeing some disruption happen at the moment in the Hull port. Of course, it's not going to be bad as we're seeing here, but the potential for disruption and chaos to the city of Hull is there. So, as always, thank you very much for watching, and please do remember to hit that like, share, and subscribe button. And of course, down below there are links to my Patreon page and one off donation link called Buy Me Coffee, where you can buy me a coffee. And as always, thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you all next time.